Hello and welcome again to another tutorial. I'm Gemma Crow and this is my second tutorial. This one's been requested by Abby, so thank you Abby for requesting one. I was stuck for ideas. So after my guest designer appearance on Jewellery Maker TV on the 24th of March, I made several items and a few of them I had requests for tutorials, so the tutorials and blog on my website was born, and this is the second, as I've just said. And today I'm going to show you how to do a multi-strand weave bracelet. Gets a bit complicated around where you put the clasp on, but hopefully with some clever lighting that my husband's rigged up for me, and a bit of moving around and adjustment, I'll be able to show you in as much detail as I can. So I obviously haven't got the bracelet with me to show you, but I'll show you one that's similar that I've made. So I'm just going to move the camera down for you to have a look. So this is a similar version of the bracelet. How much you can see there. There's just multi-strands going through the gemstones. I don't tend to have too much of a pattern, I just see what fits next really, but we'll go through it stage by stage. What I wanted to show you in particular was how I've done the fastenings on these. Now, I've used a magnetic clasp here because I find them great for bracelets. They're hard to do with one hand, so I like the magnets. Now on this one I've used a bead, a cord end, and I've used it like a crimp, but what I've also done is put a little bit of glue on the ends of my beading wire before threading it into that cord end. Then I let it set and then I crimp it as I would a crimp bead. Now that's fairly safe. I haven't sold this one. I use this one myself just to check how robust it is really, and I can't vouch for it entirely. So if you're planning on selling your jewellery, I wouldn't go for this idea until you've checked it yourself, you know you've got it right and you know it works. So the technique, this is just an example and you can have a go at that yourself if you like, but the technique I'm going to show you today uses some wire wrapping, and that is this one just here. And I'm hoping you can see that on the camera. I haven't got a very good view from where I am, so and what I've done is I've used, instead of using a crimp bead with my cord, with my beading wire, because there's so many strands it's hard to get a crimp to take them all. What I use is a little bit of wire, wrap it round the ends. It not only secures the wire in place, but it also tidies up any bits of bead wire end that's left over. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. This is another look. I think this technique works beautifully with chips and nuggets and irregular shapes because you get this really organic feel to your bracelet. And because of the type of design, I think it lends itself quite nicely. Today though, for ease and for the purposes of this tutorial, I'm going to show you using pearls and round beads really. They're nice and easy to use. Most people have got them and they show up nicely on the video, so we're going to go with that. Right, let's get on with it. Put these out of the way. So first things first, cut your beading wire, which I've already done. And I always cut much more than I need. I think I've got about, I've cut 4 lengths of 70 centimetres even, just to so that I've got enough to play with really. You can cut it off, but you can't add any on, so it's best to go longer than shorter. So like I've said, I've cut 4 strands and doubled over, that's going to be 8. Okay, so firstly you need to roughly divide it in half and then thread on your clasp. I'm not sure what clasp you're going to use, but I'm using one that I've just made with wire really. So thread that on. I'm going to use a hook and eye on this one. Thread that on, get it to the centre. Okay, and then pinch it nice and tight just to keep it secure before you start tidying the ends. And then I'm going to take, I don't know, maybe 30 centimetres of 0.4mm wire. Now this is silver plated copper wire. It's nice and soft. And just to iron out any kinks in it, just rub it through your fingers, pull it through your fingers. That softens it up, ready for use. Okay, so to keep it in place, what I usually do is thread the wire through the loop where your beading thread has gone and fold it down. That gives me an anchor then, and then I take the long end of the wire and use my thumb just to push it round and pull it tight. So you've made one wrap around, I don't know if you can see that, I've made one wrap around there, okay, and I've wrapped it around the wire that I threaded through the bolt ring there, and all the wires, and then you keep pulling that round. It's fairly rigid, so you should be able to just hold on to it and pull it round and round and round. Right, and then push it up, push the coils up as far as you can. When you get to about here, or sort of half the amount of coiling you're going to do, then snip off this excess piece of wire. Threading it through the loop at the top stops it stops the coil from slipping down the rest of your threads, because that can happen sometimes. The coil can slip down. You don't want that, because this is effectively your crimp, and so it's not just decorative, it's got a real purpose. Right, so I'm going to carry on now, looping that around and around. And I think that's about the length I want it. I don't want it any longer than that. It's only functional really at the end of the day. Then when you finish that, just snip it off, and then take your flat nose pliers and just pinch that end one, that little end that you've cut there, pinch it in. You don't want that snagging on anybody's clothes. So pinch it in. There you go, and that's nice and smooth. Okay. I'm going to hold this close to the camera lens there, so hopefully you'll be able to see it. There's your coil, which is securing all your beading threads in place. Right then, now we get to putting the beads on.